Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for Eden's vs. Refulgence. This is the fourth and final new raid encounter made available by patch 5.2 in Final Fantasy XIV, Echoes of a Fallen Star. To break the ice and kick us into gear, I'm going to take a long look in the mirror until I realize this fight is a diamond in the rough. My name is MTQcapture and I'll be your raid guide. Absolute Zero is a raid-wide blast. Healers be ready. Redress will have the boss changing her clothes in front of you, and because she's a lady, you need to look away or face the consequences. In this form, the boss will have specific attacks. Axe Kick is a massive point-blank AoE circle attack. Players will need to move far away to avoid damage and debuffs. Scythe Kick is a platform-wide donut attack with the only safe zone inside her own hitbox. All players will need to move in to avoid it. When she returns to her original outfit, the platform will be covered by thin ice. Players will need to be very careful to avoid excess movement so they don't go sliding around. Biting Frost is a massive 270-degree frontal attack. All players must slide into the safe zone behind her to avoid. Driving Frost will target a 90-degree area directly behind her. All players will need to slide in front or to her sides to avoid this. Double Slap is a heavy-hitting Tankbuster on the primary target. Cooldown and heal through this as necessary. Diamond Frost deals high raid-wide damage. Healers beware. Immediately after, 4 players will be marked with flare markers and 4 players will be marked with circle AoEs. To reduce damage, the flare target should move to the outer edges of the platform, in between the forming ground AoE circles, while the circle players can use the center of the platform to spread and avoid overlapping their attacks. Next up, 4 players will be targeted by these chasing AoE circles. They'll need to move away from others and avoid 3 hits of the incoming attacks. They move pretty quickly, so keep moving until they disappear. All other players are also adjusting to move out of the next pattern of ground AoE circles. Heavenly Strike will knock back all players from the boss. Move close to her to avoid getting knocked off, or use your knockback immunity to avoid it completely. Eventually, the boss will cast Mirror Mirror, spawning mirrors on the outside of the platform. The next attack that the boss casts will then be reflected out of the mirrors. To handle this, players can look at the shape of the attack to determine where the safe zones will be when those same shapes pop out of the mirrors and then pre-position accordingly. Eventually, the boss will fly away and begin to cast Shattered World. This will split the group in 2 and force each group onto their own separate mini platform. A number of elemental aethers will spawn around the platform and start to move towards that center crystal. Each group will need to kill these adds before they reach the crystal. Earthen aethers can be interrupted once they spawn. The unnamed add tethers can be intercepted and popped before they hit the crystal. There's quite a bit of AoE damage from the crystal each round, so healers will need to keep everyone on their platform topped off. Eventually, the group will be returned to the platform and you'll be rewarded with a 1-minute buff. Holy will do proximity base damage to the boss. Players will move to the outer edges to minimize damage. Light Rampant will deal high raid-wide damage. Healers be ready. Next up, 4 towers will spawn around the center and a number of players will be targeted with orange markers that will blast them with large conal AoEs. Unaffected players will need to stand in each tower to soak them before the orbs drop. The first round of towers only needs 1 player in each. The second round requires 2 players each. Finally, the third round has 1 tower that requires 4 players to soak. Reminder that if you're marked with the orange marker at this time, you need to position yourself away from the tower soakers. The next Mirror Mirror cast will spawn 4 mirrors around the edge. Pay attention to the attack from the boss, and then be ready to adjust for the same attack from each mirror. Twin Stillness will cast both driving and biting frost attacks in succession in a random order. Players will need to control their sliding into each safe spot to avoid both attacks. These phase mechanics will repeat until the boss begins her enrage sequence and begins to spam Absolute Zero. There's very heavy raid-wide damage during this time, so healers be ready. At this point, you'll have a pretty badass cutscene to watch before the final phase begins. All you have to do in this phase is destroy her before her cast goes off. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll head to the Cinder Drift. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.